asked, "Why did you stop dancing back there? You looked so joyful and free while you were dancing. You can smell me, and yet you still came looking for me here. Everyone back in my village teases me and laughs at my dancing." There was a small surrounded village by green hills and farms. Princess Zara lived in this little village. Her father was King Obi, who ruled over the village. Zara was the king's oldest daughter. She was known as a kind and gentle princess who treated the villagers well, but Zara had a difficult issue she struggled with her whole life. She had very strong body odor that smelled quite bad. Even when Zara was a young girl, she smelled much worse than the other children. The bad smell got worse as Zara grew up. It was a pungent, unpleasant smell that trailed behind her wherever she walked. As Princess Zara grew into a young woman, the people in the village started treating her differently. They tried to stay away from Zara because of her very bad smell. Behind her back, some villagers made unkind jokes and comments about how stinky the princess was. Some mothers with children would quickly pull their little ones inside their houses when they saw Zara walking down the dusty village road. The young girls who used to be Zara's friends would turn and go in the opposite direction to avoid talking with her. This made Zara very sad. There were many young men in the village and neighboring kingdoms who wished to court Zara because she was pretty and the king's daughter. However, as soon as they got within 6 feet of her, they were driven away by her odor. They decided not to pursue her despite Zara's beauty and royal title. This left the princess very lonely. She stopped leaving the palace most days. Princess Zara would simply stay in her bedroom and gaze out her window, dreaming of true love and a man who could accept her smelly situation. She imagined a husband who would not care about her strong body odor but would love her for her kind heart. But it seemed impossible, and Zara cried many tears over feeling so alone. It was a hot, vibrant summer day in the village. Princess Zara was up in her castle bedroom, fanning herself. She left her shutters open, hoping to catch a breeze. Then Zara heard lively sounds floating up from the village square, joyous drum beating and people laughing. She leaned out her window and saw people dancing around a bonfire, celebrating the summer feast day. Zara felt a stirring of excitement. She thought maybe she could sneak out of the palace and observe the festivities without being noticed. People seemed so happy and distracted by the dancing. So Princess Zara quietly left the palace and tiptoed to the edge of the village square. For a few moments, no one realized she had joined them. Zara stood in the shadows, watching wistfully as girls her age spun fast in their colorful skirts. But soon a breeze blew, carrying Zara's unfortunate odor through the crowd. People wrinkled their noses, glancing around to find the source of the stench. Then the drum beats and dancing altered as all eyes turned toward the lonely princess. Mouths fell open in shock before twisting into unpleasant sneers. People doubled over, gagging and whispering behind their hands while pointing at Zara. The carefree joy of moments before had vanished. Zara's eyes filled with humiliated tears. She felt utterly embarrassed and ashamed after being ridiculed while dancing at a village gathering. With tears flooding her eyes, she ran away from the crowd and took cover behind some bushes to hide. She crouched down, trembling behind a tree, hoping no one would find her. But then she heard the distant, steady beat of a drum growing louder and getting closer. Fearfully, she peered through the leaves to see who was approaching. To her surprise, it was a smiling young man from a neighboring village, cheerfully playing a hand drum as he walked directly toward her hiding spot. When he reached her, he stopped playing and kindly asked, "Why did you stop dancing back there? You looked so joyful and free while you were dancing." Zara was stunned that this stranger had followed her all the way here, especially since he was able to detect her unusual scent. She replied incredulously, You can smell me, and yet you still came looking for me here. Everyone back in my village teases me and laughs at my dancing. The young man responded gently, "Don't worry about them. I think you're a wonderful dancer. Please ignore their unkind words and keep dancing with happiness and freedom." Zara was surprised by the young man's kind words. She realized he truly didn't care about her differences. Comforted, she decided she would ignore the cruel taunts of her neighbors and dance freely just as she wished. The young man started playing a cheerful, upbeat rhythm on his hand drum. Zara was unsure at first, but after a moment, she began swaying lightly in time with the music. The stranger's smile grew even wider as he watched her start to move. He picked up the pace of his drumming, playing faster while keeping his eyes fixed warmly on Zara's. Zara could feel that he was truly seeing her, not just her outward appearance, but her heart and soul. For the first time she could remember, she felt completely accepted just as she was. This realization freed her spirit. She let go of her self-consciousness and began dancing fluidly, her body unfurling into graceful motions that left her feeling breathless and elated. As the drumming accelerated, Zara's feet flew faster. She leapt and spun with ease, weaving swift, elaborate steps that came to her instinctively. The rhythm seemed to flow through her, filling her with joy and vitality. With the stranger's admiring gaze holding hers, she felt liberated to fully express her love of dance. When Princess Zara finally stopped dancing, she and the smiling stranger held each other's gaze for a moment. Zara felt exhilarated from the joyful dancing and uplifted by the first time she had felt truly seen and accepted by someone. The two of them then suddenly started laughing together, connecting in their shared happiness. After they caught their breath, the young man told Zara his name was Juma. He lived in the village nearby and played drums in the squares for events and celebrations. Juma asked Princess Zara if she would meet him in this same spot in the bushes again tomorrow. He wanted to talk more and maybe play his drums for her to dance some more. His warm smile and enthusiasm made it clear he had greatly enjoyed their time together. Princess Zara eagerly said yes, she would definitely meet Juma here again tomorrow. Her heart felt fuller and lighter than it had in years. All her life she had been shunned and lonely due to her older issues, but this stranger had accepted her and even delighted in her dancing. Zara hurried home, her head spinning, still giddy from the exhilaration of truly being seen. She was overjoyed at having met someone who wanted to meet again. For the first time ever, she had made a real friend, and her heart swelled with optimism and excitement about their next meeting behind the bushes. In the coming weeks, Zara's meetings with Juma were the highlight of her days. Each afternoon she would eagerly sneak away to their secret spot in the bushes, where Juma would already be waiting with his drums. The two new friends enjoyed long, lively conversations, telling stories and jokes that had them laughing for hours. While they talked, Juma often picked up his drumsticks and played energetic rhythms, which delighted Princess Zara and inspired her to dance with a freedom and joy she had never known. She let go of all self-consciousness about her lingering odor issues when around Juma. He made her feel so accepted that she was able to lose herself in the music. Her wild, uninhibited dancing enhanced their connection even more. When Zara toured past Juma, he looked at her with admiration for her spirit, her beauty, and her essence. Over several weeks, their initial bond grew into a trusting, deep friendship and then budded into warm affection felt on both sides. As Princess Zara fell in love with Juma and felt his equal caring for her in return, a part of her ached secretly because of their different stations in life, he, a commoner struggling musician, and she, a sheltered royal with obligations to marry well for political ties. She assumed the future together as impossible, though the princess wished desperately in her most private dreams that social status would not interfere and that they could be bonded in marriage, for she had never felt so happy and accepted as she did with Juma. One afternoon, as Princess Zara and Juma sat closely, talking and laughing as usual, he reached over and gently took both of her hands in his. His expression changed to become serious and full of emotion. Juma told Zara that he cared for her deeply and wanted them to be together forever. He asked her to marry him, expressing his wish that their two villages could be joined through their union. Juma said he didn't care about royal customs or getting permission. He only knew that being with Zara made him truly happy and he wanted them to build a life bonded in love. Princess Zara was overcome with surprised joy at his heartfelt proposal. She cried tears of happiness, having wanted nothing more than to be Juma's wife but having assumed it could never come to pass. Zara felt she didn't deserve such a wonderful man willing to overcome all social barriers to declare his unconditional love for her. In her excitement, Zara threw her arms around Juma, whispering yes against his smiling lips as they shared a long, tender kiss. She had never imagined a love so freeing could be hers. When they finally pulled back, faces flushed and beaming with giddy smiles, the lovers made enthusiastic plans, still high on new possibilities. The princess and the drummer boy agreed they must share the wonderful news with both of their families right away. They would first ask Zara's parents, King Obi and Queen Amora, for permission to marry, then travel to Juma's village to gain his family's approval. Their plans and excitement, however, were dashed when a deadly plague suddenly swept through the land. The plague caused widespread suffering, with many villages closing themselves off from one another to prevent the disease from spreading. The outbreak disrupted Zara and Juma's plans to announce their engagement and marry soon. Zara fell ill with the plague, but she was among the lucky few who survived the disease thanks to a mysterious remedy her parents had administered. However, the illness left her without her lifelong odor. This new freshness made her feel more confident and self-assured. When the plague eventually passed and the villages began to reopen, Princess Zara stepped back into society, now free from her previous issues. She was greeted with astonished admiration from her fellow villagers. People marveled at her beauty and grace, now that her scent was no longer an issue. She began to attract the attention of many suitors, and the admiration she received made her feel invincible. She became surrounded by new admirers who flattered and wooed her, and Zara was initially thrilled with her newfound popularity. Her former confidence, which had been fleeting during the plague's course, became a powerful part of her renewed social life. But as the attention mounted, Zara began to doubt the authenticity of her feelings for Juma. She found herself questioning if he was still the right choice now that she had so many other options. Juma, eager to rekindle their romance, came to visit Zara once more. But when he arrived, Zara was surrounded by new suitors and lost her former zeal for him. Feeling pressured by her newfound status, Zara turned Juma away, believing that someone of higher rank and greater prestige might be a more fitting match for her. Juma left heartbroken and confused. He knew they had shared a deep connection but saw how quickly Zara's affection had shifted in the face of public adoration. As Princess Zara continued to entertain high-ranking suitors and accept admiration from many admirers, she planned a grand tournament to find a suitable husband. The tournament featured a series of physical challenges to test the strength and valor of the participants, and the winner would be chosen to become her spouse. In her quest for perfection, Zara started neglecting her personal hygiene, and her old odor returned. When the day of the tournament arrived, the event was disastrous. The participants and spectators reacted to Zara's return to her previous smell with shock and distaste, and many were repulsed. Amidst the embarrassment and chaos, Juma reappeared, coming to comfort Zara once more. He asked her why she had turned away from their love for fleeting popularity. Zara was overcome with regret and realized that she had made a mistake. She understood that her true happiness lay with Juma and that she had sacrificed something precious for superficial accolades. They reconciled, and Zara learned a valuable lesson about the true meaning of love and self-worth.